While the headlines keep us distracted, a financial revolution is unfolding in the background. Trump, Larry Fink, and the world's biggest banks are quietly rewriting the rules of money. This could be the biggest transfer of wealth in history, and you are not supposed to notice. Right now, the financial system itself is being rewritten without public awareness or consent. While most people are caught up in distractions, power players like Trump, Fink, Wall Street, central banks are building a new set of rails for money. Whoever controls those rails controls the flow of value, and by extension, huge amounts of power. It's happening quietly, without a democratic vote, without open debate, and without most Americans even knowing that it's underway. Now, the good news is that it is still early, and we, the American people, can still get in on the action. Okay? The bad news is that mainstream media is not really doing their job. They're not really alerting us. They're not really telling us what's happening in the background. They have interviews, because I have seen them. They have interviews with some of these business people, but they're more like obscure. So I think it's going to be up to you. It's going to be up to us to make our way to abundance. And that's why I'm making these videos. Okay? Because this is a wildfire that's spreading in the back rooms of power. And this is what happens when the shift hits. Hello, everyone. Hola, mi gente. My name is Jeanette, and welcome to my channel. You're going to want to save this video for sure. In this episode, I'm going to dive into why Trump and Larry Fink flipped from anti-crypto to crypto billionaires. And yes, that's a billionaire with a B. I'm also going to talk about XRP Ledger versus Swift and how it could replace the old banking rails. I'm going to discuss what makes XRP different from Bitcoin and Ethereum and what this means for everyday Americans. First, we got to follow the money, guys. And I need to say this up front. I am not a financial advisor. I'm not here to tell you what to buy or to sell. I'm here as somebody that's just like you, just a regular American that's learning in real time what the heck is happening with cryptocurrencies and our financial institutions. I am following the money because money tells the truth. And right now, that truth is pointing to one of the biggest shifts in modern history. Now, let's talk about timelines, because back in 2021, Donald Trump once called Bitcoin a scam, and he dismissed crypto as thin air. But by mid-2024, he flipped the script. And please look it up. I tell everybody on my videos, don't trust me. Go and verify. Verify what I'm saying. Vet what I'm saying. Look up 2021 Trump crypto and see, the comments, see the articles where he's quoted. Okay, let's remember that in mid-2024, he was running for the office of the president. He or his people selected J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a big crypto bro, okay? Then he announced that there was going to be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. And he even disclosed owning millions in Ethereum. Okay, so in the span of 3 years, how do we go from crypto is a scam to I'm going to own millions in Ethereum cryptocurrency? In 2025, he launched his own meme coin, the $Trump one, on Solana. And he netted hundreds of millions of dollars in just hours. Now, be careful with that, guys. Anything that he touches, anything that he's pumping out, I would never invest in, because he has a track record of defrauding people. He has a track record of using his name and his brand to get people to buy into stuff. And then it turns out that it's either fake, it's not real, it doesn't have any value. Okay, he pumps all the money into his coffers, and he leaves everybody else hanging. So that's just my personal opinion, but look at the track record. There's a history there. He's got patterns, okay? Now, today, estimates say that crypto makes up nearly 40% of his net worth. Think about that. Again, 3 years ago, crypto bad. 3 years later, 4 years later, now we're talking about 40% of his net worth is in crypto. Larry Fink, CEO of BlackRock, was also once a skeptic. In 2017, he called Bitcoin an index of money laundering. But by 2024, he was calling it digital gold. So what changed? Under his leadership, BlackRock launched the world's largest Bitcoin ETF. And now you fast forward to 2025, and BlackRock's crypto holdings are now over 100 billion. Again, 2021, this is a scam. This is money laundering. This is for bad actors. Fast forward to 2025, and now they are one of the largest Bitcoin owners on earth. So let's be clear. These men didn't just change their tune because they had a spiritual awakening, right? They changed because they saw where the wealth was moving. And so that's what I'm trying to do is I'm following the money, I'm following their moves because I want to see what they're doing so that I can emulate to a certain extent. Okay. Now let's talk about XRP Ledger versus Swift. Like, what is that? So let me make this simple. Imagine that there's two ways of sending a message. The old way is Swift. And actually, that's the current way that we have. Swift is a software or a system that was built back in the 70s, and it hasn't really been upgraded. So we are still in 2025 dealing with old technology to make transactions and process payments, right? With Swift, it's like you're mailing a letter across the world and you can put your cash in an envelope, except you're not actually doing that. What you're doing is you're sending a note, kind of like saying, hey, I want to send $500 to, I don't know, Italy, right? To my great grandparents or my grandparents in Italy. And then that note goes through a chain of middlemen banks, and each one is taking a cut, and each one is slowing things down. So transactions are costly and they take time. Sometimes it can take days, sometimes it can take weeks, and sometimes it gets lost. And that's why international wires cost anywhere from $20 to $50 and take forever. Now, I'll give you a real life example. You know, when you buy a house and you have to wire your funds, you know, before closing, you got to pay a fee to wire the funds because that's the way that they feel is legitimate. They know that they have verified who you are, they have verified where the money came from, and they are in custody of the money. And then they verify who the other person is, they verify their accounts, and then they send the money. So all of that takes time. All of that takes energy, and all of that takes money. Now, let's compare that to XRP Ledger. And that's more like sending a text. You hit send, and boom, it's there in seconds. And it's not a message, but the actual value, the actual currency is moving. Okay, so the settlement is final. There's no middleman. And instead of paying $50, it costs a fraction of a penny. Okay, imagine all the money that you can save by doing transactions using XRP versus the Swift system. And that's just us, you know, doing here transactions here and there. Imagine the banks that do hundreds of millions of transactions, right? And here's the kicker. For decades, only the wealthy and the banks got access to fast money movement. Nations wiring millions could afford to pay the fees. But for you and for me, the everyday American, sending like $200 back to your family in another country, or paying an overseas freelancer that's, you know, working on something for you, something for your business, you had to carry the cost. We carried the cost, right? With systems like XRP, you could finally have access to the same speed and savings that the elites have always had. And that's not just finance, it's access. And access is power. Now, you might be wondering, okay, but what makes XRP different from all the other cryptocurrencies out there? Well, number one, purpose. XRP was built specifically for payments. Bitcoin is digital gold. Ethereum is a platform for apps and smart contracts, and XRP is designed purely for payments and settlement. Number two, there's the speed and cost. Bitcoin can take anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour per transaction, depending on how much Bitcoin you're trying to send or transfer. Ethereum can take seconds to minutes, depending on traffic. XRP, 3 to 5 seconds for less than a penny. Number three, there's no mining, so it's low energy. And I know all these terms that they keep throwing, you know, I will go into mining in a separate video because I'm trying to break all this stuff down so that it's digestible, so that you can understand as I am understanding. So it's got to be like little by little. But anyways, Bitcoin and Ethereum rely on mining. And I believe that's the process where there's a lot of other people that are using their computers to verify and validate the information that's being transferred, okay? And that takes time, which also burns a massive amount of energy because now you need all this computer power to process these transactions. XRP uses consensus. It is fast, it is efficient, and it is green. Number 4, let's talk about institutional partnerships. Ripple is the company that built XRP. And Ripple has worked for years with banks like Santander, PNC, SBI, Standard Chartered, and even central banks. So they have been building for years these processes, working with central banks and doing a high volume of transactions. Okay, so they've been getting really good at that. Number 5, regulatory clarity. After a long SEC battle, XRP now has legal clarity. It is not a security. And so, giving you a little bit of background, the SEC had sued XRP originally, I think it was in 2022 or 2023, because they said, hey, you are selling a token that's a security and you can't do that. Well, in short, XRP is not trying to be digital gold like Bitcoin. It's not trying to be a decentralized computer like Ethereum. It is trying to be the plumbing of money. Okay, so it's like the corridors. It's like it's the bridge currency that can move very fast internationally. So, like I said, you've heard the phrase XRP is not a security, but then what does that mean? A security is basically a stock or an investment contract. It's something that you buy where you're expecting profit from someone else's work. Okay. So, for example, in the stock market, we all invest, let's say, in Nike. We buy Nike stock. So we're actually investing in the actual company, right? We're not doing any of the work. Nike's doing all the work, but we are expecting that they're going to do all the right things so that we can make a profit. So that's the expectation from a security, right? The SEC argued that XRP was an unregistered security because Ripple sold it. But in 2023, a federal judge ruled that XRP itself is not a security. Some sales to big institutions could count as security offerings. So XRP, the token, is not ownership in Ripple. So when we buy XRP, we're buying digital currency. We're not buying a piece of Ripple, the company that created it, okay? We own nothing having to do with that business. So XRP is not a stock. It is actually a digital asset. So again, XRP is not a security. It is a digital currency, a bridge currency. Its job is to move value between government money, which we call fiat currency. And fiat just means money issued by governments like the US dollars, like the euros, like the Japanese yen. They're not backed by gold anymore. Their value comes from government decree and collective trust. So when I say XRP bridges fiat currencies, I mean it connects dollars to pesos, pesos to yen, yen to euros, instantly at almost no cost. And that clarity that XRP is not a security is why banks and governments are suddenly willing to play. Now, second thing to be watching here is who's making moves. Because this isn't theory, it's already happening. Citigroup launched Citi Token Services to tokenize deposits for trade finance. So what is tokenize? Tokenize is the process of converting a currency or a real world asset into a digital currency. Okay, so you're converting, let's say, 500 US dollars into, let's say, 300 XRP. Okay, Goldman Sachs and BNY Mellon tokenized money market funds with BlackRock and Fidelity Investments. Guys, these are huge names. Fidelity Investments is the largest custodian of 401k investments stocks. Okay, so Fidelity is getting in on the action. Do the research, look up the keywords Fidelity plus XRP and see what comes up. Bank of America is projecting trillions in tokenized real world assets by the end of the decade. So what they're projecting is that now we're going to be tokenizing houses, maybe cars, anything of value that you own could be converted into a digital currency or a digital asset. Okay. JP Morgan is planning loans backed by your crypto holdings. Did you hear that? Now they're going to use your crypto holdings as assets that you can use to back a loan from the bank. And remember the JP Morgan coin? They already move over $1 billion daily using their own digital token. So, do your research, but all these banks, Chase, Citibank, BofA, they're all going to be creating their own, what they call stable coins. So it's their own digital currency. And this is why it's almost blind to the American people. All these things are going to happen in the back end. And in the front, you're still going to look at your bank statement and it's still going to say you have $10,000 in your bank. Okay. But when they're doing all their transactions, they're converting that, they're tokenizing all of that into digital assets. Okay, so let's look at Dubai. If you want to see what's coming, let's look at Dubai because Dubai gives us a glimpse into the future. They're literally tokenizing real estate deeds on the XRP Ledger. And developers like Demak and Emar now accept Bitcoin and Ethereum for properties. Just recently, and look it up, a villa in Dubai sold in 5 minutes, guys, to 169 investors through tokenized shares. There was no waiting, there were no banks, just instant fractional ownership. Imagine that happening here. Imagine that you can buy a slice of a house, a bond, or even a gold bar with your crypto. Tokenized, transparent, and accessible. Okay? So start thinking, because this is what I'm saying. A lot of people can't afford to buy a house, right? But with a little bit of money in crypto, you might be able to buy into a fractional ownership of some real world asset. And now you're building wealth. You get it? So it's becoming more accessible because of that. Now, let's talk about why most people have no clue what is happening, okay? Trump is a master of distraction. He stirs up media storms with outrageous comments. He fuels courtroom drama that dominates the headlines. He drops culture war bombs about immigration, women's rights that set social media on fire. He thrives on shenanigans, memes, insults, theater, while billion-dollar shifts are happening in the shadows. This is a simple case of misdirection. Like a magician, keeping your eyes on the fire over here, right, with the left hand, while his right hand is rewiring the vault. And here's the danger. While people fight about the outrage of the day, Trump and his allies are positioning themselves to become their own bank, earning more in a year than their family has made in generations. I do believe that I saw something where it said that in the last, I think, 6 to 9 months, the Trump family has made, I think it was like $2.8 billion in crypto. This is more than they've ever made in real estate deals throughout all these generations. Okay? Now, one of the things that, let's talk about the phrase democratizing finance, because that's one of the key, phrases that he used. It sounds beautiful, lowering barriers, giving everyone access, right? But when Trump's World Liberty Financial launched in 2024, they said exactly that. They also created this USD1 coin that was launched in April of this year by the Trump family and was marketed as freedom for everyday people. But the reality is something different, okay? The Trump family owns 60% of the project, and it's going to take 75% of all token sales. So that's not really democracy, guys. That's dynasty. And this is his MO. If you follow any of the court cases when he was convicted of the 34 felony charges of business fraud, if you listen to that, if you read the transcripts, if you listen to the witnesses, you'll realize that this is his MO, okay? He puts something out there, using his brand name. He makes it sound like it's really shiny and gold. And then he takes all the proceeds off the top and leaves everybody else hanging. Okay. So please be very careful with that. And this is why I'm trying to do these videos so that people become more informed as to what they're doing and what they're investing in. And this is what I'm just learning. Okay. So the idea of freedom while consolidating control, yeah, that's not freedom. And while the Trump's, organization is carrying the name USD1, again, he likes to appropriate things. He likes to confuse things. His truth network, which is full of lies, so you have to be so careful because he's always trying to tell you that one thing is another. So USD1 is not the same as the US dollar. Okay. It's a digital currency that he's created under his organization, and he's selling these tokens. But again, remember that they own 60% of them, and they're going to take 75% off of the sale of these tokens. USD1 is a private cryptocurrency, and its value is going to be dependent on the credibility, reserves, and transparency of the issuing company. Enough said. If you know, you know. And if you don't, look it up. I don't think they have any credibility. Their reserves are always questionable because they're always playing games with the books. And as far as transparency, what transparency? They're just smoke and mirrors. So just be very careful. I would not, me personally, I would never invest in anything that he's putting out because he likes to pump and dump, and he takes the money and runs and leaves everybody else hanging. So please do not be fooled by this token. Let's not forget that the president is a felon that has been convicted of 34 felony counts of business fraud. And that doesn't even cover all his failed businesses, his multiple bankruptcies. It doesn't talk about the vendors that, he didn't pay for work done in his hotels. It doesn't talk about the investors that were left holding the bag with Trump University. None of that. That's not even included in this 34 felonies. This is their MO, guys. This is their pattern. I'm a pattern person. I look at not what people say, but what people do. And when you look at his track record, just beware. So let's talk about how Trump's 75% revenue share impacts USD1 investors. Number one is the motive to make profit versus stability concerns, right? After the first $30 million in token sales, Trump's company takes 75% of all proceeds from further sales of USD1. So this creates a conflict of interest, right? Because the more tokens are sold, especially at a high price, the more Trump profits, regardless of whether the token remains stable or sustainable in the long term. And critics argue that this structure resembles a pump and dump incentive, where promoters, Trump, benefit the most during the initial hype, potentially at the expense of later investors. By the time you get in and invest, all of a sudden he pulls his 75% and now the coin drops in value. Number two, lack of transparency. Unlike regulated stable coins like USDC or USDT, those are also comparable to the US dollar, but in digital form, which publish regular attestations of their reserves. There is no public proof that USD1 is fully backed by US dollars or other reliable assets. Guys, if you watch any of those court cases having to do with the 34 felony counts of fraud, you'll know that they were cooking the books, that they would tell one bank the square footage of this real estate property is this, so that they could get a loan saying that the property was valued higher than it actually was. And then when they went to do the taxes, they would say that the property was way smaller in square footage so that they could take a bigger deduction. So listen, just beware. Without transparent audits, investors must trust that the company holds enough reserves to maintain the one peg a significant risk. Now, number three, market confidence and liquidity. If investors lose confidence in USD1 due to the lack of transparency or the perceived exploitation, they may rush to sell that coin, right? Causing the token to depeg, which means that it's going to fall below the $1 value. In such a scenario, holders of USD1 could see real financial losses, unlike holding actual US dollars in a bank or in cash, right? If you have your cash, you're not going to lose the value of if it's $1, you have $1. You don't have 50 cents because it's not losing value. It's not dependent on any of that. Now, number 4, regulatory risk. The SEC and other regulators have scrutinized similar celebrity-backed crypto projects for potential securities violations or misleading claims. If USD1 were deemed an unregistered security, or if regulatory action were taken, trading could be halted or the token could lose value very rapidly. So if the SEC says, hey, you're selling a security here, people are investing thinking that they're going to make money from this, and this doesn't really have the value that you say it does, then all of a sudden the token could be taken out of the exchanges. All of a sudden the token could go down to zero and you lose all your money. So bottom line, while your actual US dollar, the $1 bill or a bank balance, remains unaffected, investing in USD1, the token, carries significant risk. The 75% revenue share to Trump's company raises concerns about whether the project is prioritizing investor protection or promoter, Trump family, profit. What do you think their priority is? What have they shown is their priority? It's not anybody else, it's themselves. Investors in USD1 are exposed to counterparty risk, depegging, and regulatory uncertainty. They don't have the same clarity that XRP has, where it has been stated by a court of law, you are not a security, okay? So they're still ambivalent, none of which affect the value of the real US dollars, okay? So always distinguish between official fiat currency, like the US dollar is USD, and privately issued tokens like USD1. There's also USDC, there's USDT. So research those and see what you think. Because just because a token claims to be worth $1 doesn't mean that it acts like $1. Okay, so here's what it could mean in your life for you to have XRP or cryptocurrency, okay? It could mean, well, specifically XRP. It's cheaper international transfers. You wouldn't be paying these $40 wire fees. And also the speed, you can send money in seconds. So if you're in the US and let's say you're in Texas and you want to you go on vacation to Italy and you want to buy a little villa there, with your cryptocurrency and with XRP, you would be able to pay for that immediately, through your crypto. And you wouldn't need your bank's permission. Every time you're trying to pull money, if you're trying to pull any kind of large amount from your bank, they have restrictions. You can't pull more than $3,000 or maybe $5,000 in a day. If you're going to take more money than that, we need to know what the money is for. We need to know where it's gone. We need to know where it came from. There's always delays. They're always trying to keep your money longer, right? They give you all these excuses and regulations. So you would avoid all that. Also, crypto could be used as collateral. Your Bitcoin or XRP could actually help you qualify for a loan or for a mortgage. So you're not just relying on your income. Now you would have an asset, a digital asset that actually counts towards your loan or mortgage. Okay, they count that as part of your assets. Before that wasn't the case. You could actually start getting into fractional ownership. So you can't afford a house? Okay, maybe with your crypto, you can now get into the real estate market by owning a fraction of a property. And now you're still getting some of the benefits, right? So it gives you an entry point to start building wealth. Now imagine owning part of a house or a gold bar without being a billionaire or a millionaire, right? Cryptocurrency can help you achieve that. Now, resilience. If banks shut down during a crisis, your money, if it's in crypto, could still move because it's in the blockchain, it's decentralized, it's not at the bank. So it gives you more freedom and more access to your own assets, especially if you move them to, I think, a cold wallet. So it's not connected to the internet. It's just much harder to steal that. And we'll get into all of those terms, later, but I'm just trying to explain to you what is happening as I understand it. And if I'm wrong about something, if you're an expert in this field and I'm wrong, please, hop into the comments and clarify where I'm wrong and bring the receipts though. Like don't just critique or be rude or whatever. If you legitimately know that I'm saying something that is not accurate or you have additional information, please add it in the comments and then give us a link or give us some keywords to look up so that we can actually corroborate what you're saying. Okay. My intention here is to try to get as many people as possible to start learning about this and to hopefully be in a position to invest a little bit of their money, whatever money you have that's left over, just use it to start building wealth through crypto. Now, this could be the largest transfer of wealth and power of our lifetime. What can you do? I'm not here to sell you coins. I'm not here to sell anything. I will never go on a DM selling you some kind of service or telling you I can help you move crypto or telling you about Web3. Every time I follow a content creator in this crypto area, man, I get bombarded with DMs from copycat accounts that are pretending to be the original creators. They're trying to steal your crypto from you. They're trying to engage in fraudulent transactions. So just be very careful. So again, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm not a financial expert. I'm just getting into this crypto thing. But what I'm good at is noticing patterns and also putting clues together, because we are looking at the banks moving. We're looking at powerful millionaires and billionaires making moves in this arena. And what I'm saying to you is educate yourself, because that's what I'm doing. I'm educating myself. I'm learning the rails before they become invisible. Number two, I'm watching the banks. When Chase, Citi, and BlackRock move billions, I think that's worth noticing. Okay, staying grounded, because money is energy. And if we are not spiritually rooted, speed and access won't mean freedom. It's just going to mean chaos. So stay grounded. Find your why. Why are you trying to do this? And then put in the work and do the research and follow people and listen until you get an understanding. Okay. This does not come naturally to me. So I have to listen and listen and listen. And I'm listening to a variety of people to see, are there conflicting stories? Are they confirming each other? Are there holes in what somebody's telling me? Right. Number four, I would say, follow me if you want and save this video and research the subject. I'm going to post some of the content creators that I follow in the comments section for your reference. Make sure, in full disclosure, by the way, I don't know any of these people personally. Okay. None of these people are my friends. I don't know them personally. I've never met them. I've never talked to them. I may have put something in the comments section, and then maybe they answer, but that's about it. So this is not an endorsement of any specific person, okay, as any kind of expert. These are the people that I've been drawn to. These are the people that I feel aligned with, and I'm verified. And these people usually give you some type of receipt that you can check against, okay? There are many, many fraudulent accounts out there created by copycats. So if you're on TikTok, try to catch them when they're doing a live video, and then you can add them, subscribe to them so that you can be sure that you're watching the original creator. Also, if you go to my profile, you will see the people that I'm following. So the people that I mentioned, just look through my profile through the people that I'm following. And those people I know I have vetted. I had made sure that I went to their live and I'm following their actual content creator, not the copycat account. Okay. As with everything in life, guys, please, please, please do your due diligence. Don't risk more than you can afford to lose. And what I'm saying to you is just follow the money. Follow the big players. Look at what they're investing in. Look at the major financial institutions: Chase, Citibank, B of A, BNY Mellon. Google search the following keywords. Type in Larry Fink. Type in World Liberty Financial. Type in XRP. Connect any of those names with XRP. A few other coins that I'm going to tell you about that I think have potential are XRP, XLM, HBAR. I've heard about Cardano. I think that's ADA. Again, I'm not an expert, so you got to do your own due diligence before you invest money. But these are cryptocurrencies that, have different purposes and that I think have a good opportunity for growth. So check it out. Look up Fidelity Investments. Now, Fidelity Investments is the #1 custodian of 401ks, and they are getting partnerships with XRP. And right now they're waiting on legislation to pass. There's a couple pieces of legislation that are stuck that need to go to the Senate and need to be voted on. And if those go through, then you're going to see a lot of ETFs, a lot of these financial institutions creating ETFs made up of different cryptocurrencies. So check it out, see what is happening. Go down the rabbit hole. I know I have. dedicate a half hour every day and just watch a video from someone and just, gauge. Do you trust what they're saying? Does it sound like it's true? Can you verify some of the information that they're saying? Type in the keywords to Google searches. The information is out there, guys. This is the beauty of the age that we're in, is that the information is actually out there. It's accessible to us. So I just want as many of us as possible to jump in and get in on this massive opportunity to create some wealth. Don't just let the billionaires that are going to become trillionaires, just take the whole bag. Like, get in. It's accessible right now. The prices are, I think like XRP was like $3 or something like that. I think XLM was like, I can't remember. I think it's 25 cents or something like that. There's H bar. I think it might be like 40 something cents, or maybe it's the other way around. Just look it up. But look up these coins, because these are coins that the access point is very open for most people. And just buy a little bit, and maybe buy a little bit every week, if you can, or every month, whatever allowance you have. Instead of buying coffee, instead of buying, another movie or whatever, just buy a little bit of these coins. Just remember what happened with Bitcoin, because I will never forget, back in 2009, I was providing a service to a customer, and they sent me Bitcoin to pay me. And I think it was like $500 that they were sending me to pay for my services. Well, I received that and I was like, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's a new currency or whatever. And I said, no, I want to get paid in US dollars. And so I sent it back, and then he paid me $500. But right now, if I had kept that Bitcoin at that time, I would have had full coins. I would have had 500 coins, right? Which right now, by today's standards, it would have been equal to $60 million. So I missed out on $60 million because I didn't know. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't do research. I thought this is new. Money made out of thin air. I don't trust it. So here's another opportunity, guys, to get in on the ground level of some of these coins. And a lot of them are not going to do well, but there are some that have utility, that have purpose, that are already getting embedded into financial institutions globally. Check that out. And I think those have a greater opportunity to create wealth. Okay. So a financial shift is coming. So get educated and don't get left behind. That's why I'm doing this video. Risking looking like a fool, right? But it's just because I really, really want people to take advantage of this. I know how I felt about missing out on the opportunity for Bitcoin, and I don't want to be in that position again. So, okay, so let's do a spiritual reflection. Let's just ground this and let's get ourselves just grounded. So close your eyes and let's take a slow breath. You can take it through your nose, and then you're going to hold it for a couple seconds, and then you're going to exhale through your mouth. Okay, so here we go. Let's do it again. And one last time. All right. This shift, guys, is not just about dollars, okay? It's about trust. Trust is moving from banks to blockchains. But real trust, the kind that lasts, lives in how we treat each other, how we hold each other through change, and how we stay awake, okay? I am hoping that just like that one content creator that, popped up in my algorithm, I had not looked anything up about crypto, and this person just popped into my For You page, and I was intrigued by what she said. I was absolutely intrigued, and I thought, like, what is this? And something in me just made me feel like there is something to this. I need to investigate. And the more I investigate, the more I read, and the more I looked for other content creators, other people that were talking about this, the more convinced I am that there is a real opportunity here. So anyways, that's just my perspective on it. Everybody's in a different situation. All right. So I'm gonna ask you to close your eyes so that we can do an abundance affirmation. And let's just say you can close your eyes and repeat after me. I adapt with clarity. I walk in abundance that transcends money. I choose awareness over fear. I stay grounded while the world shifts around me. All right, everyone, please subscribe, like, and share this video, please. Let's let as many people as possible know about this opportunity so that nobody gets left behind. This is when the shift hits, and the shift starts with you. Because when you shift, so does everything around you. Have a good day.